We're finally there. We're finally us. So, so here we go. We, excuse me. We are in First Samuel chapter 3, and so we'll be covering a. We'll see how far we can get. This is where we're more introduced. We've been Samuel hasn't been the main character, but now he's going to become the main character. And this is again another display of the things that we talked about last week, the different points. One of the points that we're going to see throughout here is the fact of God's sovereignty. God is sovereign in everything that He does, and we're going to see that He's sovereign in His choice and His election and all these things, and we're going to see that Eli was the priest, but we remember what happened to them last time because his sons were horrible, and they're gone. So now God is going to deal with. He's got them out of the way, and now God's going to deal with Eli, who's the priest, but he's primarily going to focus on Samuel from this point on. And remember that Samuel, he is one of the last judges. Saul's going to be coming up fairly soon, and he also is kind of used as a judge at the very beginning, but he fails pretty quick. So let's begin in verse 1 of chapter 3 of First Samuel. Now, the boy Samuel was ministering to Yahweh before Eli, and the word from the Lord was rare in those days. Visions were infrequent. So this is another one of those times when God was pretty silent. It wasn't just in the after the book of Malachi. It was, the Italian prophet. Yeah. Um, this was another time because remember during the time of the judges things were not very good, and God was as it says here, the word from Yahweh was rare and visions were infrequent. So God wasn't speaking to His people much, and now things are going to change because Samuel is kind of a transitional character, the last of the judges, but the first of the real prophets who begin to speak on God's behalf to the people. Verse 2, and it happened at that time, as Eli was lying down in his place, now his eyesight had begun to grow dim, and he could not see well. And the lamp of God had not yet gone out. And Samuel was lying down in the temple of Yahweh, where the ark of God was. That Yahweh called Samuel, and he said, "Here I am." So remember that the temple wasn't the official temple; it was just where they were keeping the ark, and it was more than likely a building there. In do you remember where it was at? Anybody? Anybody? Starts with an S. I'll give you a hint. Starts with an S and a sh. With a sh. Starts with a sh. Shiloh.
Yeah.
It was in Shiloh.
I never would have guessed that.
I wouldn't have gotten it either.
Yeah. So the temporary one was there in Shiloh, and the word of the Lord comes, and he called Samuel, and Samuel said, "Here I am." And then he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But he said, "I did not call. Lie down again." And so he went and lay down. And Yahweh called again, "Samuel." So Samuel rose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." He answered, "I did not call you, my son. Lie down again." Now Samuel did not yet know that Yahweh had, nor had, he didn't know Yahweh, nor had the word of Yahweh yet had been revealed to him. So Yahweh, and where I'm reading Yahweh is the capitalized Lord. So that's the in the Hebrew, that's his actual name. That's the tetragrammaton that we were talking about earlier. Yahweh. This is his memorial name is what he said. "This is my name that you will call me in memoriam. This is my memorial name. You will call me when you call upon me by this name, and it's Yahweh. Or that's the closest we know what the pronunciation of it is, or at least one of the closest ways. So Samuel did not yet know Yahweh. Now that's an interesting thing. What does that show? That shows God's what? Sovereignty, right? He doesn't know God, and yet God is the one that's calling upon him. So Samuel thinks it's Eli, and that's all he's just hearing a voice. He doesn't know what it is. And it's interesting that this is recorded for us that he did not know, he didn't have that relationship with God yet. Verse 8, so Yahweh called Samuel again the third time, and he arose and went to Eli and said, here I am, for you called me. Then Eli discerned that Yahweh was calling the boy. And Eli said to Samuel, go lie down, and it shall be if he calls you that you shall say, speak, Yahweh, speak, Lord, for thy servant is listening. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. Then Yahweh came and stood and called as at other times. And he came and stood as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel said, speak, for thy servant is listening. So one of the things that we can draw out of here is Samuel was a very obedient guy, right? He thinks it's Eli, so he runs immediately. He thinks he's being called, so he goes, he's obedient, and he's like, oh, he's calling me. I'll go see what he wants. And then the last time that Eli was involved, he says, go back, lay down, and if you hear that voice again, you hear him calling you, then say, here I am, Lord, speak. Your servant is listening. And so that's what he does. This is one of the things that is important because even in the different, I can't remember where exactly it is it's written because I just read it the other day. But God is more interested in our obedience than he is in our offering or any sacrifice that we could give. He just wants us to be obedient. Yeah. Yeah, it was just the other day I was reading that and I'm like, where was that? I can't remember. I don't remember the exact address, but the Bible does say God is more interested in obedience than he is in sacrifice and in offerings and all those things. This is what he takes pleasure in. And so Samuel is very obedient. He does what he's commanded to do. And in verse 11, and then Yahweh said to Samuel, behold, I'm about to do a thing in Israel at which both ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. So something new, something like, what? God said, what? In that day, verse 12, I will carry out against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house from beginning to end. For I have told him that I'm about to judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knew, because his sons brought a curse on themselves, and he did not rebuke them. Therefore, I have sworn to the house of Eli that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be atoned for by sacrifice or offering forever.
That's sad.
Yeah. So Eli had pushed God to the nth degree, and every time he should have acted. This is one of those things, and I think was it the Great Divorce that had the different segments, people at the bus stop? Is that the one?
That's Great Divorce, yeah.
Yeah. And so they in there,
C.S. Lewis?
yeah, C.S. Lewis, and in one instance, it was a woman who I think she loved her son or something, and she loved the child more than she loved God.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she said she was a believer and so on and so forth, she wouldn't let go of that. And this is the same kind of thing. This is that soft parenting that so many of us older folks, if we remember Dr. Spock and all these psychological books that told parents how to parent, and they were written by idiots that don't have any kids. So they have no clue how kids are. And people just bought it up because, well, these are the academics. They know. Mm. And so Eli he didn't act out as he should have. And this is one of the things that we as Christian parents have to understand. If our love for our child is greater than the love for God, we don't love God. And I remember Chris, and I remember Jovan when we came across those portions of Scripture. That he was like, "Wait, what?" Because when you're raised in the LDS faith, it's all about family.
Mhm.
Family's the most important.
Eternal family.
And Jesus says, "No, if you love them more than me, then you're not even with me." So this is the kind of thing. Eli loved his kids too much, and he didn't discipline them. He was too soft. No spanking, and that's always a bad idea. Spanking is a good biblical thing to do, and it's one of those things that is necessary because foolishness is dwelt up in the heart of a child. And how do you get that out? Well, Solomon says with the rod, with the rod, with the rod of discipline.
Don't coddle.
And he's like, basically was saying, whack them, whack them a little bit and teach them a lesson. It's an important thing. So God is saying there's no offering. There's nothing that they can do. I'm judging them because of their iniquity. And then he said, it shall not be atoned for at the end of verse 14, for by sacrifice or offering forever. It's done deal. That's one of the reasons why I hold to the view that when we're talking about eternal punishment, it's exactly what we're talking about. Eternal punishment. Some people don't like that idea. However, it is a harsh truth to have to deal with. And I think it's more biblical to believe that because he says right here, it's never going to be forgiven. It's not just for a moment. And I'm talking about this growing popular idea of annihilism, that God judges for just a little while and then the people are eventually just annihilated. I don't think that the Bible teaches that. And the issue is when we're talking about sin is offending an eternal God, an infinite God. And his judgment is therefore, and his justice is eternal, and it's in infinitude. So because of that, you've offended a God eternally. And that's why the eternal judgment, I think, is what is shown in Scripture. And Eli here, he's done such a heinous thing in God's eyes that he says there's no sacrifice, there's no atonement. There's no atonement. Verse 15. So it's kind of sad on the one hand, but it's also one of the things that's really hard to grasp is in God's justice, when he judges and he condemns, he's the one who sentences. It glorifies God because it glorifies his justice. It glorifies his righteousness and his holiness. And that's one thing that's hard for us to grasp because it is glorifying to God to be a just God as he is. Verse 15, so Samuel lay down until morning, and then he opened the doors of the house of Yahweh. But Samuel was afraid to tell the vision to Eli. And remember, Eli must have been like a father to him because he's been with Eli for however old he is here. He's been with Eli almost the whole time, except for the first 2 or 3 years of his life, presumably. Verse 16, then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he said, here I am. And he said, what is the word that he spoke to you?
Uh-oh. That's going to be a hard one.
Eli knows he's got an inkling that it's not going to be good because listen, he says, please do not hide from me. Please do not hide it from me. May God do so to you and more also, if you hide anything from me to all the words that he spoke to you. So he's like, I know I got some up and comings coming. So tell me everything. And notice the curse may he so do to you if you don't tell me everything.
Dang, that's kind of
What
threatening.
verse
Yeah.
are we in?
We're
Verse 17
Just
and
finished
18.
17.
18, yeah.
Got it?
Yeah.
Verse 19. Thus Samuel grew. Excuse me.
We did
Verse
read
18.
I
So,
thought it was being funny.
yeah. So Samuel told him everything and hid nothing from him. And he said, "It is Yahweh. Let him do what seems good to him."
That's what Eli said?
Yep.
Wow. Holy crony.
So, but in a way, it's a good thing because Eli's saying, "Okay, I'm going to trust God, even if it's to my doom."
Yeah, he's
Um,
accepting.
He's like, I'm
He's accepting it's
essentially-
wrong, and he's accepting that it's God's
Yeah.
decision.
Is he just like chastising Eli and he's gonna save him?
No.
No, God's already said there's nothing. The only thing
I mean, after death, that he could be
that I don't know that he's condemned for life, like
Uh-huh.
I mean for eternally, but in this life, his whole deal in as a priest is
It's
over
gone.
because his sons are
Gone.
gone, and it didn't just affect. And this is what the other thing to learn about it is when we are in sin and unrepentant sin, it doesn't just affect us; it affects everyone.
Mhm.
And I'll give you an example. When somebody is in the throes of adultery in a marriage, they're harming more than just their spouse. Their kids are affected. Their in-laws are affected. The rest of the family is affected, and they just go on with their life as if nothing has ever happened. They did nothing wrong.
Well, and the other family.
Yeah. So all of the families are all affected in, it damages so many people around you. And that's the idea. What Eli did, or what, in this case, what Eli didn't do that he should have done, what he ought to have done, he didn't do. And because of it, now it's affected his whole family line. God has taken them out from the priesthood. They won't be able to serve there anymore. So it's not just Eli; it's his whole family that's going to be affected by this. And that is one thing to keep in mind. And that's God's justice, and it's just. So this is the price you got to pay.
He had plenty of time to turn around.
Well, he should. Yeah, he knew from the previous chapter, or previous chapters, his sons. He was allowing them to just get away with murder. And he didn't chastise them. He didn't correct them. He never, he should have publicly taken them out and beat them with a rod, but he didn't do any of that. And he was indifferent towards it. And essentially what he did was he didn't treat God as holy. And so that was his downfall. And verse 19, so Samuel grew and Yahweh was with him and let none of his words fail. So Samuel's obedient, and this is the difference. You have the contrast here. Eli and his failure, Samuel and his obedience. And then it says, and all Israel from Dan even to Beersheba knew that Samuel was confirmed as a prophet of Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
So we go from God being quiet to all of a sudden there's a character who's more than just a judge, because now he's going to be speaking directly to the people. And it says in Yahweh, in verse 21, and Yahweh appeared again at Shiloh, because Yahweh revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh by the word of Yahweh. So God was not only silent, his presence was absent. He was absent from the presence of the ark. The ark was there and everything that was in it, but it says that he had just basically taken his hands off. Because if you remember early on that, or it's going to happen a little bit later here in Samuel, his glory is going to depart again. I think we can get through chapter 4 pretty simple. It's pretty short. So now this is shifting really fast in years. It takes big chunks of years and boom, boom, boom. So we're moving again here. And it says in chapter 4, thus the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out to meet the Philistines in a battle and camped beside Ebenezer, while the Philistines camped in Aphek. And the Philistines drew up in battle array to meet Israel. When the battle spread, Israel was defeated before the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men on the battlefield. So Israel's been defeated. Verse 3, when the people came into the camp, the elders of Israel said, "Why has Yahweh defeated us today before the Philistines? Let us take to ourselves from Shiloh the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, that it may come among us and deliver us from the power of our enemies." So they're setting themselves up for failure already. Do you see it?
It's an idol.
They're treating it as if it's just an idol, just like the false gods. But what is it that they failed to do? They asked the question, why did God defeat
Yeah.
us?
Instead
wasn't
of
the Philistines.
asking Him,
Yeah, they didn't go to
they
God.
didn't. Yeah.
They
They
didn't.
don't have a relationship with
Yeah.
it. They have a relationship with the art.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. Yeah, it's become kind of an idol. So they think if we just take the ark with us, then we'll win.
That's our good luck charm.
Yeah, exactly. It's a talisman.
Talisman, yeah.
It's not just it's not what it's intended to be. So they're really, really far off. Verse 4, so the people sent to Shiloh, and from there they carried the ark of the covenant of Yahweh of hosts, who sits above the cherubim, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. And it happened as the ark of the covenant of Yahweh came into the camp, that all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that all the earth resounded. So they're all excited. Now, remember back from Exodus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, and all those different, there was a way that they're supposed to deal with the Ark of the Covenant. And only the priests were able to carry it.
Right.
And they couldn't touch it. They had to use these gold leaf-covered poles, these long
Slid
poles.
into it.
They would slide into the rings, and they're supposed to carry them up on their shoulders, carry it out. But they're never told that they're supposed to take it out into war. So they're just doing whatever seems right to them. Hey, if we just take
Right, right.
our God, we take our idol out there. That's kind of what's going on here. And here's Hophni and Phinehas. These are the two sons of Eli. And it happened as the ark of the covenant of Yahweh came into the camp that all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth resounded. Now, verse 6, and when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, "What does this noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews mean?" Then they understood that the ark of Yahweh had come into the camp. And the Philistines were afraid, for they said, "God has come into the camp." And they said, "Woe to us, for nothing like this has happened before. Woe to us! Who shall deliver us from the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods who smote the Egyptians with all the kinds of plagues in the wilderness." Verse 9, take courage and be men. So before we go on, so they thought that it was like
Multiple
their gods. Yeah. They thought it was just like their gods. Because the Philistines are polytheists. They have different gods. And so they're just thinking the same thing. They're bringing their God, but the God of the Israelites, the Hebrews, had a reputation. They all knew what happened in Egypt. They all knew what happened in the wilderness. They all knew the word got out to all the different peoples. And because remember, they killed and slaughtered thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in the land of Canaan. And these are the remnants of those people. And they're like, their God is powerful. He does stuff that our gods don't seem to do.
Well,
Now
it
we're
says
woe
they're
to us.
gods.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they think that.
It's multiple gods. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
not one God could do all that.
So they don't. I mean, they know what was done. They just don't know that
Yeah.
it was by
Yeah.
one God.
Right. And so, verse 9, and take courage and be men, O Philistines, lest you become slaves to the Hebrews, as they have been slaves to you. Therefore, be men and fight. So the Philistines fought, and Israel was defeated, and every man fled to his tent. And the slaughter was very great, for there fell of Israel 30,000 foot soldiers. So that's
So what is
34.
that? 34,000?
Yeah. Yeah, 34,000 so far in 2 battles. Boom.
Wait. Okay, I just got lost.
He
I
found.
see.
He found.
I see 30,000.
4,000 previous.
The 4,000 from up here.
Up in the.
Oh,
Chapter
oh,
three.
duh. Okay.
So
Okay.
just doing the math. We're just doing the mathification. The mathifying. So they are defeated again, and this is what's going to happen now. God is working, by the way. He's working and he is not working. In his quietness, he's working. He's doing stuff. He is, as our founding forefathers of our country would say, he's providentially moving behind the scenes. By not acting, he's allowing them to be judged for their foolishness. Because they're not treating God as holy.
Letting them lie in the
Yeah.
bed they made.
Yeah. So verse 11, then the ark of God was taken, and the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died. Now,
Imagine that.
yeah. Now a man of Benjamin ran from the battle line and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes torn and dust on his head. And when he came, behold, Eli was sitting on his seat by the road, eagerly watching, because his heart was trembling for the ark of God. See, and even that, he knows I shouldn't have let him take it. And he was still failing, unfortunately. It's hard to get out of those old habits. And when he came, he told Eli, was sitting back on his seat on the road, eagerly watching, because his heart, this is verse 13, his heart was trembling for the ark of God. So the man came to tell him in the city, and all the city cried out. And when Eli heard the noise of the outcry, he said, what does the noise of this commotion mean? Then the man came hurriedly and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were set so that he could not see. The man said to Eli, I am the one who came from the battle line. Indeed, I escaped from the battle line today. And he said, how did things go, my son? Then the one who brought the news answered and said, Israel has fled before the Philistines, and there has also been a great slaughter among the people. And your 2 sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been taken. And it came about when he mentioned the ark of God that Eli fell off the seat backward beside the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died. For he was old and heavy. Thus he judged Israel 40 years. So
he had judged Israel for 40 years.
yeah. So he was one of the last judges as well. And so he is now.
But he didn't
It's
live
quite-
very long according to how long he lived back then, right? Or did he?
No, he
This is
was he was
after the
actually
flood.
pretty. Yeah, he was actually pretty old.
So this
Really?
98 is a pretty good long time.
it's not 900 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not those
Before
those
the
crazy
flood.
kind of years. Now in verse 19. So Eli's gone, his sons are gone. God's beginning to judge Eli as he said he would. Those are the things that God was doing behind the scenes, allowing this stuff to happen so all these things would unfold. Verse 19, now his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, was pregnant and about to give birth. And when she heard the news of the ark of God was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband had died, she kneeled down and gave birth, for her pains came upon her. And about that time, verse 20, of her death, the woman who stood by her said to her, do not be afraid, for you have given birth to a son. But she did not answer or pay attention. And she called the boy Ichabod. Ichabod is his name. Let's write that down.
My grandpa used to call everyone Ichabod. I didn't know it was in the Bible.
There was a story about Ichabod.
Sleepy
I don't know
Hollow.
what it
Ichabod
was.
Crane or something.
Yeah.
It's a Christmas thing.
So did she die in childbirth?
Yeah.
Ichabod, she named him Ichabod. And Ichabod,
How did she name him?
Ichabod means
She took her last breath. Ichabod.
in the Hebrew. This is the Hebrew
She's
name.
tired.
Gibberish.
No glory. His
Aw.
name means no glory. That's what Ichabod means. There's no glory. And so she called the boy Ichabod, saying, "The glory has departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband." And she said, "The glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God was taken."
Did she die? I thought she died.
Nope.
Well, it
Doesn't
says,
say.
and about the time of
Her death.
Did
the
now.
woman who stood by her said
Yeah.
to her, "Do not be afraid, for you have given a birth to a son." So
Yeah,
it's
so-
like,
She did.
it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, and it is a little bit.
Did
Yeah.
she die? She didn't
Is
die.
it-
She was overcome by
Yeah. It was either that or, as God sometimes does, he gets ahead and says she eventually died or she died, but at the time of her death. Because the boy, let's see, the woman who stood by her, but she answered, but she did not answer or pay attention. Okay, so it must
But
be
then she
the
called
lady.
the boy
The lady
Ichabod.
was Ichabod. Yeah, it must have been the lady that named him Ichabod, because she did not answer or pay attention, so she must have died.
So yeah, that's a little confusing.
So that's I think that's
So
what.
she was judged too because of
Yeah, because remember that's part of the judgment
yeah.
is this line is going to be done away with.
Well, and that's why I wondered. I was like, okay, wait. So did she?
Yeah, she's the one who died, and then I think it's this woman, whoever she was. We're never told. It's just the woman that was beside her. And now there are.
The glory.
She says the glory has departed because the ark has been taken out. It's kind of I think what we were thinking about earlier is they had made the ark an idol, right? Because God would still be there because He's going to be there with Samuel.
The ark never gets discovered again, is it? Or does it?
No, the ark does come back for a little bit, but it doesn't get back to Shiloh. I don't think for quite a while. So, and it's eventually it will make its way to the temple, but. They did what was wrong, and so God judged them. Do we have time for chapter 5? Because it's pretty short too. All right, let's continue on.
Oh yeah, we do.
So, chapter 5, verse 1. Now the Philistines took the ark of God, and because this is an interesting, very interesting, curious thing here. Now the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. Then the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it to the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. When the Ashdodites arose early the next morning, behold, Dagon had fallen on his face to the ground before the ark of Yahweh. So they took Dagon and set him in his place again.
Is Dagon a god?
Yeah.
It's like
It's kind of like a, if I understand correctly, it's kind of a man with a fish head, or vice versa, fish body with a man head. It's just one of those weird deities, and this is who they worshipped. It's what Paul talks about in Romans. They gave up the glory of God and the knowledge of God for creatures, and they made idols out of
Romans
creepy
1.
crawly things and
Right.
fish.
Well, I guess they
And
kind of didn't
humans.
know what he was.
And so, yeah,
The different images show him a little
Yeah.
different in
Yeah.
each one.
fish body and man's
Like-
head and
Waist down, but then some of it's
Yeah.
the
Whatever you
back
wanna
of him,
imagine,
or-
that's what he is.
yeah, he was. They're not exactly sure. They find all these deities, and so they're assuming it's these things. But the point is that this Dagon had fallen on his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. In verse 3, so they took Dagon and set him again in his place. Verse 4, but when they arose early in the next morning, behold, Dagon had fallen on his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. and the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off of the threshold. Only the trunk of Dagon was left to him. So they come and they find their god broken to pieces. And meanwhile, the ark is just kind of hanging out. Therefore, in verse 5, therefore neither the priests of Dagon nor all who enter Dagon's house tread the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day. So they were very superstitious.
Mhm.
And there's still a lot of that kind of superstition around. You know, when you're walking down the sidewalk, don't step on the crack. Or,
You'll break your mother
People
back.
have
Maybe that's
OCD
what's
about
wrong with
that.
my back.
yeah, could be.
Then my kids must have done a lot.
I know.
Verse 6. Now listen to this. Now the hand of Yahweh was heavy on the Ashdodites. He ravaged them and smote them with tumors, but both Ashdod and its territories. When the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, the ark of God, Elohim of Israel, must not remain with us, for his hand is severe on us and on Dagon our God. You'd think that they would realize if that God is that powerful, our God is nothing. But that's how convinced people are that what they have is true. And that's all they've ever grown up with. It's the same thing with Islam. With all the stuff that's happening, with the supreme leader killed, and their next chosen supreme leader killed before he could even get into power, you'd think they would go, oh, their God is more powerful. But they're not. It's their spiritual implication. They're blinded. They're so blinded that they can't see that this is an act of God. And that's what's happening here in Samuel. But they know that God is up to something, doing stuff. And they're fearful. Verse 8, so they sent and gathered all the lords of the Philistines to them and said, what shall we do with the ark of God of Israel? And they said, let the ark of the God of Israel be brought around to Gath. And they brought the ark of God of Israel around. And it came about that after they had brought it around, the hand of Yahweh was against the city with a very great confusion. And he smote the men of the city, both young and old, so that tumors broke out on them. So they sent the ark of God to Ekron. And it happened as the ark of God came to Ekron, that the Ekronites cried out, saying, they have brought the ark of God of Israel around us to kill us and our people. So now they're being terrified because they are seeing all these things happening. And tumors, they generally can be seen. So God is doing something. They know it's related to somehow to the presence of God in their, because remember, the ark isn't an idol, but the ark is holy because it's a representation of God's presence. And because it's holy and they're treating it as unholy, whether they know it or not, God is judging them, which tells us and informs us that people don't have to know who God is or about God in order for God to judge them, because God is still just. So when we get asked that question by people who are trying to trap us, well, what about the person that's born on an island and never hears about the gospel? And it's the one thing that I've learned over the years is there's an easy way to disarm that. And the easiest way to disarm that is all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. The word all there is all, everyone. Everyone is guilty before God. And because everyone is guilty before God, whether they hear about Jesus or not, they're already headed. Every single person that's born into this world headed to judgment already. And that's the answer to that dilemma that they always think that they catch you. What about the person that never hears about Jesus? Well, God says, I have poured the knowledge of myself in every single soul, and I have placed eternity in their hearts. Which means basically, I think what Solomon meant to say there, or what he's intending, is that every person knows that there's more to this life than this life. There's more afterwards.
So even if they don't ever read a Bible, they just already know that
Yeah,
they're
they know
supposed
that
to repent.
they know that there's a God, and they have to deal with the consequences of their own sin, because all have sinned. There's no one that is not guilty. Let's put it that way. Everyone is guilty before God. Every single person. Not one person is not guilty. That person doesn't exist. Not even Dan.
Oh, he exists.
Yeah.
He's just not
Yeah.
innocent by
Yeah.
no means.
So let's finish this up, and we'll call it a night. Verse 10. Oh no, well, let's see. We already did the verse 10, because they're crying out. They're bringing the ark over here to kill us, because they see all the God's judgment going on. Then verse 11, and they sent therefore and gathered all of the lords of the Philistines again, and said, send the ark of God of Israel, and let it send away the ark of God of Israel, and let it return to its own place, that it may not kill us or our people. For there was a deadly confusion throughout the city, and the hand of God was very heavy there. And the men who did not die were smitten with tumors, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. So God is judging them. Your battery is running low. So even though they weren't the ones that brought the ark, the Israelites did, then lost it in the war, and they brought it to theirs, thinking, what is it that they're guilty of? They're making it equal to their gods. They just think it's just another idol. And I'm talking about the Philistines. But they faffled. They fooled around, and they're finding out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know.
I was waiting for
Yeah.
it, like, okay, meaning.
They're fooling around, and they're finding out that God is God. He's holy and He's powerful. And now these are people who don't worship God, but they're understanding their God is real. He does stuff. He's killing some of us, and every person that doesn't die is full of tumors. And so they're like, let's get this thing out of here, and let's take it back, which isn't a bad idea. That's again, it's God's providence working behind the scenes, causing them to put it back to where it belongs. And we're going to see that in the next chapter or two as we get there. So we've got to chapter 6. We'll start with chapter 6 next time, and we'll continue on in our this fascinating events that took place. And again, it shows the sovereignty of God, that everyone answers to God. You know, when we say that because the Bible tells us that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. It's true. And here we see an example of that. These guys worshipped other gods. And God, because they had something that was holy and they weren't treating it as holy, God holds them accountable.
Oh, that's okay. You can keep it here, I guess.